All right, all right, all right. I'm going to turn off my
Hi.
notifications. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, hi.
Thank you so much for your patience. It's been interesting. We were supposed to do it tomorrow. Then I had a little bit of a situation with one of my dogs. I had to drive back from vacation, get two teeth extracted. I appreciate, not me, the dog. Um, I would have just kept going. But yeah, so thank you everybody for checking in on Jacob. I really appreciate that. He's doing well. So yeah, so I have to drive tomorrow now, and thank you, Artem, for uh, being a good friend and being uh, flexible.
You're welcome.
So again, yeah, thank you for everybody. And today we just wanted to talk about briefly more about socialization and how it's changed us as people and how it's shaped what we do. Because a lot of what socialization has to do with is you understanding how you get involved in the problem. Would you think that's a good way to put it, Artem? Like when we interject ourselves is what socialization is? Because we're talking about giving the dogs more freedom. And I think when the dog does something, a lot of times we interject, and that's when the problem can happen. And if we're
Yeah, but I guess from my opinion, it's like before doing something, we should understand how they should be socialized. How to say it in English?
socialized.
Socialized, yeah,
Hmm.
with the environment in which one we want them to live.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There was a talk Sadhguru had given at one place. I think it was at a college or something. And somebody asked him how to be a better parent. And he said, by understanding why you want to be a parent and about yourself, because it's about changing. The next generation should be better. So if you're just raising another version of you, it's not really changing anything. And I think it's exactly what you're saying. Having a good idea of what you're bringing into your life. Hi, Scott, Joey, Shoba, Allison. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Um, so one of the things I loved, I was watching some of Brandon's videos, like we both do frequently, always getting different pieces. And one of the things I love that he said is we only love the domesticated side, but
Oh yeah.
yet we keep asking for the aggressive side of the dog, and that in there lies the problem. So
Absolutely.
so we love the domesticated side, but many of the problems we create are by asking for the predatory side.
Yep.
And we had a couple episodes on that if you want to go back and look at it, but we're gonna dive deeper in it. But I just thought that was a really good quote. Have you ever heard him say that before?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
In few videos,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, so good. Um, so for me, kind of what, how we started is socialization must have an amount of free will. So the dog has to feel like they are able to make choices, and it gives them a chance to do it right on their own without interference from us. So
hmm
I'm curious, Artem, like, so when you're in the yard doing daycare and things, like, how are you letting this transpire? How are you letting them have free will with each other and ultimately under your supervision?
In general, uh, they have that opportunity only if I know that I can influence them no matter what they decided to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and generally, it's about to stop them from doing something
Yeah,
mentally, not physically.
yeah, yeah,
So then they can do whatever they want to. And it's actually having relationships and understanding what I really, how to say, should, don't like, yeah, if I can say it. Like I'm not putting myself a lot, only if it is required.
yeah. And for me, socialization, part of that is letting the dogs have the feelings and working them through it versus
Yeah, absolutely.
trying to stop it ahead of time. And that's what we've talked
Yeah.
about in our muzzle videos, and some of these other videos that we've talked about is, it's the emotional problem is what, or the emotions is what the problem is, and
Yes.
having to work them through to the other side is what I think is what's changed the what we do, versus
Hmm.
asking them just to do something physical. We try to understand them emotionally. I guess, is that, would you agree with that?
Yeah, 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 and it's actually about having experiences, a lot of different experiences, which will change emotions,
Mm-hmm.
which cause problem behavior.
Yeah,
I'm talking about emotions.
yeah, and from both sides. I mean, a lot of times, one of the questions I was going to ask, but I thought it was a little confrontational, which was, if you have worked with a professional before, did you hire the professional thinking you had a dog problem, or did you hire the professional saying my dog has a human problem? Because, like one of the things Brandon always says is dogs know how to be dogs. It's us that we bring our stuff into it and our expectations, and that's where they can get confused. Um, how often do you think dogs receive the wrong messages for because of what humans do in reaction to what the dog does? So the dog does something that makes us feel a certain way, uncomfortable, fearful, anxious, and then we do something. You know, how often do you think that message gets confused in our relationship?
It's almost always,
Yeah.
if we don't understand uh, with what kind of things we're really dealing with, it's almost always like grabbing that little dog on hands when people seeing big dogs coming towards,
Mm-hmm.
pulling that these leashes back when the dog actually wanted to approach and sniff another dog, and this is where problem can be created and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's almost always not giving a chance to the dog to experience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the part I think that I'm most fascinated by, is that human awareness of why we're not willing to give them a chance. Why is, at that moment, it's us that's interfering, and that's what can create our own problem. And then the cycle continues. The dog does something that we don't understand, and then we put our emotions into it, our reaction unconsciously. That's the difference. There's a difference between, conscious anger and unconscious anger. Sometimes you have to let somebody
Yeah.
know, like, hey, I didn't like that. But if that's your reaction all the time, then that's when it's as Sadhguru says, uh, your education or your intellect isn't driving the ship, and that's where the problem can become. And you're talking about those situations, where the and we've gone through these in previous videos, like all of these things that can cause these problems. But when that human picks up that dog, right there, I'd love to be able to stop the camera, walk in, and say, okay, why did you just do that? And because that's really when the change starts to happen, because your dog wants to be social, that's who they are, but our interference there, and that's, for me, what's changed my life, is being able to say in that moment, where was I going in my story in my head. um, and it's freeing and it's scary at the same time, I would say. It's freeing to be able to say, oh wow, okay, let's let things happen, the way it's supposed to because there's a lot to choose. But then there's a lot for the dog to show me and educate me. But then there's also that, oh my God, I don't know. And do you ever feel that way? Do you? I mean, I know both of us are very safety conscious. But do you ever feel sometimes where you're like, I don't know what's going to happen?
Of course,
Yeah.
of course.
So what do you try to do besides limit risk?
I'm letting them to show me
Mm, yeah.
what they need,
Yeah.
what their choices will be, how they feel about things that are happening, and no matter what it is, like aggression towards another dogs or being fearful of something in environment, like timid and fearful dog. It's it's all about uh, giving them a chance.
Yeah.
But again, from the dog perspective, not from the things that we, uh, let's say, developed as a system of communication with them,
Yeah.
such as training, commands, uh, positive only, sync, balance training, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's our own conceptions.
Yeah. And I often, I mean, I don't know, I wonder if you agree with this, but I often find when people are trying to solve these problems, it's usually some type of physical solution.
Which, like, let me clarify something. Physical, but nothing changed mentally, yeah?
I don't even think people are aware that they're trying to change it mentally.
Yeah, but
I just think
what's
they,
happening? What's happening? Like, something happening physical, but mentally it's getting worse or staying the same, yeah?
and that, but then also, if I do have a problem, so say my dog charges the front door, say my
Mm-hmm.
dog jumps on people, I
Mm-hmm.
often find people right away go to a physical solution versus trying to understand the problem mentally
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
emotionally
The reason, like, they're trying to fix the cause, not
just
not the
stop it.
cause, the effect, yeah,
Yeah,
but not the cause
exactly.
of that problem, yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny that you said the fearful thing because I didn't think about that right away. I had seen a something recently about a dog that had like a traumatic incident.
Uh huh.
It got shocked by a fence, like an electric
Uh
fence,
huh. Uh huh.
and this is, like, and we've talked about this before. Physical doesn't always just mean leashes and collars. It also means touching, and it means
Mhm.
affection. And
Mhm.
the person had asked for help trying to get the dog over this problem. But what I had already seen was a list of things that they've already done, and every single thing was some type of human interaction. I tried to do this, I tried to do this, I tried to do this. And I felt like just saying, I wouldn't do anything. The dog got shocked by a fence and he's not feeling comfortable. I wouldn't feel comfortable right away either. It might take me a few hours for the adrenaline to leave my body for these things. So I wouldn't have done anything physical. I wouldn't have tried to coax them away from something. If he wanted to come in the house and lay behind the couch for an hour or two and just be like, what the hell just happened? I'm okay with that. But then when it's time to go for a walk or do something, I'd put the leash on and we'd go. And I feel like that's a lot of what people's go-to solution is something that's physically based um, versus emotional. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and actually, I just had that thought when you been saying this. It's actually forcing the dog to change. Like, no, 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 that fence is all right. Don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, yeah. At our speed too. It's not at the dog. It's
Yeah,
not letting the dog process it the way they need
and
to.
actually, I guess it's not our speed also.
Well, you know what's funny? So you and I had talked about it recently. The Russell Brand had Gabor Mate on his podcast,
Yes.
And one of the things Russell Brand had said was he knows he does this thing that's wrong, and it's when his daughter is freaking out. Sometimes he'll say, "If Daddy gave you ice cream, would you be okay right now? Would you piece of chocolate?" And what Gabor Mate said exactly. This is a great episode about
Yeah.
parenting and our self. I mean, it's just there's so many pieces in there. Politicians. I mean, just understanding childhood trauma, basically. And what he said was, Gabor Mate said, "Do you want me to tell you why you do that?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "It's because you can't deal with your own discomfort, and you don't want to see it in your kid." And that's the same thing with our dogs. Like when they're have mild discomfort, we can't cope with that, regardless of how they feel. They're allowed to have feelings.
Hmm.
Your kid can get angry and throw a fit.
Hmm.
But it's our previous trauma that makes us not want to have to feel that, to not want to see that. So then we try to stop it, not for them, but for us. And yeah,
Yeah, because it's making feel us in a certain way. Yeah,
yeah, that we don't like.
and we don't want to feel it and seeing it.
Hmm. Yeah. So I guess the conclusion of this really, for anybody that has these problems that come up like this, is it's so important, more important why you're doing what you're doing than what you're actually doing. I'd rather you not do something than do something, because anytime somebody comes to me and they want to solve the problem, it's usually adding more to their to-do list. And for me, it's usually, and I don't know if this is the same way for you, Artem, it's usually removing things from their to-do list that is, for me, going to set these people on the right path.
Yeah,
Stop doing a lot of the things that you're doing. But we've talked about this in previous episodes. But those things is why people got a dog.
and
They're
actually figure out not only stop doing what you been doing, but also figure out what was your emotions behind it, why you done it,
hmm
why you have done it.
yeah,
Like, what was the reason? It's also emotional. Why you wanted your dog be around you all day long when you're at home? Why you want to talk with him so much? Why you want to touch him so much? Why you want to play tag of war with him? Why you want to wrestle with him?
hmm
Like all of those things, people can stop doing them, but as I regularly see, people not dealing with reasons why,
yeah,
and it's going way deeper in how to say it in English. Why they actually get that dog, for what reason,
yeah,
for what emotional reason.
yeah. In the ebook I sell about picking the perfect dog for your family, that's the first question: is why are you getting a dog? Because it's, I mean, it's so many people's problems down the
Yeah,
road.
why it's not rabbit, why it's not cat, yeah, why it's a dog.
And why that dog? Is it,
Yes.
and that's kind of what we go into. The colors, it looked like my friend's dog. My brother-in-law had that same exact dog, and it's always, it very rarely works out. Very rarely. I'm in a group because I have an Airstream. I'm in a group about Airstreams, and this one young girl, maybe mid-20s, had asked the question about, I'm finally going to get a dog. What kind of dog should I get? And it's just list after list after list of people talking about their dog. And I'm like, but your dog's not their dog. Your dog is, I know what. So you're telling me that person's gonna raise be in the same environment. There's so much more that goes into it, but it just kind of frustrates me, um, because dog ownership doesn't qualify you to be a professional, and it's just, but for people they just can't stop giving that advice, even though I don't know. I feel like it's like more than any other industry that I've ever been around, people just have a lot of opinions about, and they
Yes.
know, they
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
Um, so As going into that, Artem, I mean, do you have something that you right away say, this has changed the most in my life? Because we're going to talk a little bit about some of the, the differences between socialization and some of the other ways people work with animals. But like, since you started doing socialization and letting dogs teach you, is there anything that you can say, like the one biggest thing that you've noticed a change? Or Angelica, if I was to interview Angelica right now, would she say that she notices something that's changed in you?
Because I've started doing this.
Well, because you've gone down that journey of of understanding yourself more so that you're willing to accept what the dogs are doing.
Like I'm not getting it's completely. We're talking about myself as a human, or me
Yes.
as professional, or what change in my work with dogs. So what kind of change you want
You as a
to?
person.
I guess I started accepting things way more than before.
Mm. For what?
Like it is what it is,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not never will be the way I wanted it to be, because it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, mm, Doing less, for
Ah,
sure. Doing less.
that's a good one. Yeah.
Uh,
That's a really good one because I think a lot of people, when they feel like they're doing something, they're accomplishing something, even if it's nothing.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a good one.
Um if how to say it? Let me think. Uh, if talking about dogs, I give more than ask now.
Mm.
At least doing my best to give more than I'm asking,
Yeah,
compared to previous chapter in my life with dogs.
yeah.
Like sit down, stay calm, no things like that.
And that's a perfect transition because one of the other things Brandon had said in one of a different video but similar
Uh huh.
was training. In training, we force our will on the dog because
Yeah.
when we see something we don't like, we do something. And I I would even say, and back up a step, I would say even before we see something, we as humans usually feel something and then enforce our will on the dog. So the dog's
Uh-huh.
about to make me feel scared because I'm not sure what they're going to do. So we ask them to do something. We force our will on the dog to make ourselves feel comfortable.
Uh-huh.
Instead of, like you're saying, or what we talked about earlier in the beginning, is giving them an opportunity. Maybe they won't do anything wrong.
Yes.
Um, when I was in um, when I was in Oregon with Scott, who's on here, we took one of his dogs out, and I thought for sure um, Jake was going to correct this guy. I thought for sure, um, and he didn't need it, but but it was like a 50-50 of he could possibly correct this dog, but I've also seen him take this same dog and ignore him, and then that dog turns into a follower. Like, do you guys do you ever see the movie Mean Girls? You have that movie in the Ukraine. Anyway, it's about like three popular girls and they kind of ignore everybody. And when they're popular, everybody focuses on you.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes that happens in that same with that similar type of dog. Sometimes he does that, and you could see this dog start to open up, and there was no forcing his will. It was him being who he was and letting things happen. That's what I had to do to watch, and it was uncomfortable. I'll be honest with you. It might not have looked uncomfortable while we were doing it, Scott, but I wasn't 100% like, this could go either one of two ways. But I had seen it enough that, I mean, again, like, and I also know Jake. He's not trying to put, he's a cattle dog. He's not trying to put holes in anybody. But if
Mm-hmm.
there's something he doesn't like, he will let a dog know. Um,
Yeah.
and it, those are those moments where I often wonder if I was doing straight up dog training, how I would solve that problem, because sit, stay, stand doesn't socialize; it
Yeah.
secludes. So I think that was, I think that's a huge piece. I really want people to understand the difference for socialization and training. Is, training is forcing our will when we're not sure what's going to happen. So we try to.
And it's always about, how to say it. It's always about making a dog to hold some kind of posture. It's not about, my English is not good today.
Better than my. It's
uh,
always better than my Russian.
yeah. Okay, I'll try to explain in other ways. It's almost always about not letting a dog to have experience, to take it away from the situation, like come, sit down, stay, place, all of those things, like boom, taking away the dog from the situation
Avoidance.
in which, yeah, avoidance, yeah. uh, and regularly dog is not feeling what he's doing, even if he's doing it. Sit down, stay, place, calm, heal.
Mm-hmm. And it's, again, it comes down to me. It's an advanced way of thinking because humans created that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not natural for dogs because it's not the way they communicate. So,
Yeah,
I mean, all of that training, operant, classical conditioning, all that stuff was human created. It wasn't.
and it works great for the purpose when humans showing up how that dog uh,
Tricks.
like tricks. Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All of those competitions, things like that.
And this is,
Sport dogs,
yeah,
agility.
and this is something to come back to. We're talking about dogs that have behavior problems.
Yeah.
Like, I go through a couple bowls of popcorn a week in my house, and all my dogs know little stupid tricks. But if one of them decides to bark at the door, that's not what my go-to strategy is for changing that moment, that feeling, is not to ask them
Mm-hmm.
to go bang, lay down, right? Or,
Mm-hmm.
hey, Jake, find my cell phone. It's not going to help. Which I lost that skill now that he can't hear, because he doesn't know. When I say it, he's just like, huh? I'm like, oh man, all that work. Now I'm going to lose my cell phone. All those years he's done it. It's only come in handy one time. My friend lost her cell phone in her house, and he came over and he found the cell phone. We used to hide them, but not anymore. Anyway, um, I guess that's something to me too, that we're talking about very advanced. When you're raising a puppy or you have an adolescent dog, you have to remember, or you don't have to remember, you have to understand how advanced what we consider basic training to be. So, you always say, Artem, when people say training, it's, I got to train my dog. And we all have. I was with some friends, last week in Tahoe, and one of the guys was complaining to his wife about, you got to train that dog. So I said, what does that mean to you? Like, what does that mean? And what it means is stop doing the things that I don't like. But it always comes down to, what are you doing to create those things that you don't like? because you're also sitting on the couch and giving your dog popcorn when you're not, and calling them up when you're not sure what they're thinking. So there's, a lot of that. So, when you say your average puppy class and dogs are not being able to socialize, this is something that down the road I've found can cause problems.
Yeah.
Having a puppy right next to each other and then saying sit and stay and don't smell his butt and do the things that nature intended, it can cause stress. I would say it'd be like, do you guys handshake in the Ukraine? Like if you meet somebody,
Of course.
right? But you don't do that in other countries. So there's this language that say I went to do that to somebody and then they did something else. Now I'm kind of caught in this. I don't know what to do. It's not natural. It's not what and I just always think about that when I'm watching dogs meet or I'm talking about avoidance. Is they have a program in their brain that came from nature. So why do we want to change that? What we have to be aware of is how us not understanding or taking that time to understand it makes us feel. Um, and that, I think that's a big difference in that the socialization, which if I was to raise a puppy, people always ask me, what would you do with your puppy? It would not be on a leash unless it had to be. I walked around the Airstream dealer for 2 hours yesterday, and Lily wasn't on leash once. When the cars came down, she moved out of the way. We went in and got coffee. She followed me. Yeah, I mean, she's not missing anything, so she doesn't feel these explosive needs, and I don't feel an explosive need to kind of constrict her. So socialization, if you're getting a puppy, focus on socialization, which I'll go back and read it again, has an amount of free will, which is deep to the dog. It gives them a chance to do or not to do without interference from us. And they're like kids. They need to go have an experience, see what happens, and then they'll make the choice whether they want to do it again or not. And
Yeah.
that's when we're understanding that makes a much different dog. And the dogs that most people want that can go places and do things. Um, so coming back now to this real quick, Artem, we've talked about this before. Little tips from nature, the way nature's programmed dogs. Have you ever seen another dog tell? Have you ever seen Camilla? People that follow you on Instagram, Artem's black and white dog. Um, tell her anything, tell a dog anything but what she does not like.
Say it again.
Have you ever seen her tell a dog anything but what she does not like?
No.
No,
Never.
never. And
Never.
that's so important in socialization. So important. And people struggle with this mostly in my experience, Artem, is because they say, well, then
Yeah. Same.
why do I get a dog in the first place then?
Mm-hmm.
And that comes
Yeah.
down to, I don't know why. Because what you're saying is, I want to do what I want to do. And that's not fair to the animal. They didn't sign up for
Yeah.
that expectation. I want to just pet him.
Yeah.
Okay, you were going to interject. I know when you point at me, you have something to say.
Yeah, and it's actually uh, connected to things that we uh, had discussion on, I guess, few months ago, like people asking you or me to help with the dog, and then we come in and talking about their about about the owner actually,
Mm-hmm.
about their emotions, about their
Yeah.
relationships, and people can even immediately recognize that if they at least trying to be honest with themselves that they have something in here. That's why they have problems with dogs,
Yeah.
some psychological problems, and a lot of people just not, again, from my opinion, not ready for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is where all of that stuff going to.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about socialization, But actually, if we go in deeper, 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 it's come to us
Yeah.
in our own emotions and problems, unsolved problems.
Yeah. And I guess this is, for me, like you talked about, it's a bait and switch kind of thing. We go in because the person says I have a dog problem, and we go in and say, your dog has a human problem. Um, I had said this to you the other day, and it was one of the first times you actually gave me a compliment. You were like, "Whoa, that's pretty good." And it said, I said, from my experience, dogs need time in a safe environment to learn how to be dogs again. And
Yeah,
and I in my experience, I'm talking about behavior problems. I have not felt either comfortable, long-term results, not just personally, but just industry-wide, talking to strangers and people, um, that training my dog is solving the problem. Because if you truly ask, if you really care about finding the truth, like we've talked about a million times, ask people, collect data. People that its dogs are lunging and barking and charging and they're scared and they're ask them, does your dog know how to sit? Oh yeah. Does your dog know how to lay down? Oh yeah, it does it great in my kitchen. Then why do we still have these problems? And it's when we understand nature and then the human side of what we've created that I think we can really make a change in for the better in dogs' lives.
let me, how to say it? Okay, let me say something.
Go ahead.
So, what socialization is actually is, it's like before you go into outside world to do socialization, you first of all you should understand your dog, and this requires a lot of personal work because you will need to do things that you should do, not those things that you won't do a lot of times. Then, by having that information and understanding, and it's all packed in previous episodes, you should develop relationships where you actually have that connection, where that dog listens to you because who you are, want to be around you because who you are without leash. Yeah, maybe in muzzle if you have aggression, but without leash. Uh, and you able to stop that dog any moment. So then you need to go outside and deal with things that you have problem with. And of course, if you don't know how, you need somebody who understands it and can help you. Um, so yeah, and for my opinions, socialization requires a lot of off-leash work. A lot of off-leash work. Why? Because this is natural. This is what you said. They like process information the way nature made them,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why we need to create those safe environments. And by saying safe environment, it just can be fenced area,
Yeah.
and you will feel okay to let that dog be free without leash.
Yeah. I think sometimes people are scared at what they're going to see though,
Yes.
because there's so much to dig through. I hear people say this all the time. Like I'll be walking and when people have that conversation with their dogs, say, "Why do you do this? Why do you do this?" And what they're really saying is, "I love you so much. I give you these treats and we do these things, but yet the dog still isn't doing the things that they need." Um, and I think that's can be a little scary for people to have to dig through all that to try to find where the real problem is. And, you know, that's for me, some people get more defensive. And some people are like a lot of the people on here that I've met along the way in my travels and have talked to you are the ones that go, oh, this is going to be a fun journey within myself. It really has nothing to do with my dog, but everything to do with what they teach. So you didn't know it, Artem, but that was your Artem's final thoughts. We do have a couple questions, so I'm just
Okay, let's go through them.
okay. Um, so Barbara had just said many rescues are selling sob stories, preying on people's emotions. Yeah, and honestly, I have no compassion for those people because if they really want to solve the problems, it's about not having the dogs being returned. So if you want to sell sob stories just to make turnover, that's fine with me. But then I also don't have patience for those people that when they call me and say I have this huge problem with this dog, and I go, okay, well, I wouldn't have paired them up with those people. I wouldn't have done those things when you've had them. You know, I actually told you what to do and you didn't do it. So, you know, I honestly, like, I've kind of had it up to here with rescues and shelters and things. Um, I started out gung ho and really wanted to help, but I find a lot of them don't want to even help themselves. They just want to keep their blinders on, stay in their movie instead of reality, and that's okay because you know that was my last article that I put out was you get what you pet, and they're getting what they're petting. So you know, there's nothing I can do about that. I used to feel Did you ever feel responsible for that, Artem? Like when you were younger, starting, did you ever feel like if they just listened to me, I'd be able to? They'd be able,
Oh,
right? And you
absolutely.
take it
Yeah.
personal, and it burns you out, and you get frustrated,
Yes.
and then eventually you're just
Yes.
like, I can't help you if you don't help me. My friend
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
that's on here, she always she says that she says somebody, oh, can you help me train my dog or something that, and she, oh, or can you train my dog? And she always says no, but I can help you help, like you, I can help you help your dog. I can't help your dog.
Hmm.
So you know, and it sounds terrible. You know, I think a lot of the rescues hide behind we're saving lives. Yeah, but you're also creating a lot of problems.
And you know, they, for my opinion, they enjoy that drama.
Oh, great point, Artem. Great
They
point.
like, I want to help, but I want to feel all of those
Hmm.
feelings every day. But actually, to do the work, you need to
Yeah,
change here and throw away those feelings. Like,
yeah. We don't want to do that.
yeah, 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 drama not helping anybody.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to hate on rescues. There's a lot of great ones that people are doing it, but more often than
Yeah,
not,
no, it's only about when people not doing, not
yeah,
asking for the help.
yeah. Because the other thing I learned a lot is they would have a lot more help if they were actually take the advice people would give. I visited a rescue that's doing like a lot of turnover, and the dogs are really, and they had somebody there that was a volunteer that was a data scientist. How many shelters have the ability to have somebody that their job is data, right? And she was sitting around twiddling her thumbs like crazy, and eventually just said, I'm not going to be here anymore. I can't sit here and not have anything to do because nobody, like you know, like you said, they just want the drama and all these things, where she's coming in almost too intellectual because that's what she is, saying like, we can understand this problem more, we can do these things. And that to some people is scary. They're like, well, no, we don't want to understand the problem, I just want to get up and go on Facebook and be angry and do all these things. And that's, you know, but understanding why. Ugh. Susan, one of the wonderful people that's also in Brandon's group, I see her post all the time, she's amazing. She said she started to accept that my dog has a rough and vocal style of play, and it doesn't mean he is attacking. Yes, yes. Sound only means something to the person that interprets it. Right? If some people's dogs bark and it's like background noise, and some people's dogs bark and it makes them feel insecure, and some people's dogs bark and it makes them feel angry, and some people, it's just a sound. What we bring to it is the I don't know, median, I don't know, whatever. We're the person that brings it in. Like the music Artem listens to, I wouldn't listen to that. But he loves it. He loves it. um, Artem, do you believe there can be a balance between the two, training, obedience, and socialization? Just say it.
Honestly, no. Honestly, no. Because when you training your dog, you also changing behavior. You're also changing relationships. You're also influencing your dog. You're also creating something.
Yeah. Yeah.
For example, like that's thing that we call waiting for the dog, like wait for the food or for something else. And what's actually happening, the dog is like feeling like that, and then okay, boom,
Mm-hmm.
and it's boom blowing, you know,
Yeah.
like suppressing and then letting them to blow up. And it's actually what you, if you're creating this, it's actually what you will be struggling with maybe on a walk when dogs see something and cannot approach or things like that.
Yeah.
Brandon actually have good quote about it, like you can not have problems with training, but you can have problems because of training.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, teaching your dog jump obstacles, and then you're moving from the flat to the house, going to the yard, and not seeing your dog. Why? Because he jumped the fence, and but he been good at doing that on a field where
Yep.
you practice it
Yeah.
from the sport dog perspective.
Yep.
But then you live in a flat, and in a house he used that information because you taught him it, because you taught it. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm done.
No, I get you. I get you. That woke you up. That was good. I guess what I would. This is the first time I've ever thought about it this way, so this is totally like just my wheels are turning. Is whenever you want to ask your dog to do something training, ask yourself why.
Yes.
Because I go through, I mean, I travel constantly and I'm in different environments and different situations and walking and on leash and off leash. And I never ask my dogs to do anything except listen to me. And
Yes.
listen to me produces sits, lay down, come, but it's not because I asked them to, it's because of the way I made them feel. So if you're walking,
And it's actually happening more natural,
exactly. It's from the way
not
they
forcing our will.
exactly. So if I tell my dog, if my dog looks at something and I feel like I want to say sit there, I would ask myself why. And it's because I don't feel like I can control. But then I also have to step back and say, well, what is my dog feeling right now? If my dog is using his eyes, looking at something across, that's a curious, potentially predatory mindset. And you can't control a predator by asking him to do submissive behaviors. You control a predator by making him feel a certain way so they do submissive behaviors. So if I tell my dog, hey, they back up instantly. Instantly. Right? It's like a growl. They take a step backwards and go, whoa, what do I do? Before they even do anything, the first thing, or
Yes.
before they even, I wouldn't say before they do anything, the first thing they do is back away from something or create space and then say, now what? Right? And then if they don't know what to do, that's okay. I don't have to tell them to do anything. I just wait for them to do something else. And if I don't like that, I tell them that I don't like that either. So it could be,
And
whoa.
they're able to figure out what to do next.
And that's when they feel part of the process. And it's more, it's The results are more lasting because they are actually the ones that are calling the shots. They're saying, I did that. Oh, that's the stove. I put my hand on the stove. Oh, I did that. I put my hand on the stove. All of these things are leading to burns. So that's consequence therapy. I don't want to do that again. I know. And so, I mean, I'm not sitting here saying my dogs are perfect, but what I'm saying is my most important thing is that they listen to me. And it's not because I tell them to do something physically. It's because of the way I live with them every single day. And I want my clients to live with their dogs every day so that when I do need something, they're willing to listen. And, I kind of equate it, and a lot of people can, like I'm not the big sports guy. Like I watch, I was a tennis player, so I still watch, like right now, the US Open's on behind me. I watch, but my wife always laughs because a lot of her friends' husbands are that guy. And then you try to talk to your husband while they're watching the big game on Sunday, and it takes them 10 seconds to, wait, what did you say? Right? Like, no, always attentive. And so if my dogs are laying there or if something happens and that's the environment. Hey, pay attention to me right now. Oh, what? Right? Instantly. That's what I'm looking for. And that for me, all I can say to people is try it, because it's not, I don't want you to listen to me. I don't want you to say Artem is right. I want you to say, I've tried this. I'm willing to accept it's working or not working, and then make a real choice instead of holding on to what we think could work because possibly someone said. If it's not working, it's not working. It's that simple. It's not working. So
Yeah.
so be okay with that. There's um, my wife's a screenwriter, and one of the scripts she has out right now with some producers is about cults. And um, she read this really good, she reads weird stuff, but she read this really good book about, it was from an exit counselor from people that are leaving cults. And they said one of the most powerful reasons people stay in cults is because they are unwilling to accept that they were duped. And that's why they stay in. They don't want to hear their mom say, I told you so. They don't want your friends to say, oh, hey, yeah, I told you that wasn't going to work out for you. And I feel like that's a lot of what happens with people in the dog world. No, I spent $3,000 on this seminar. I can't admit that it's not working. And then they keep banging their head against the wall instead of just saying, oh, I got duped. Okay, lesson learned, move forward. So try. So long story.
Also, let
Go.
me add something. When you explain how you living with your dogs and what you're looking for, it's your dog's listening to you.
Most of the time.
And if mostly, yeah. And if they listening to you and understand what you don't like, those dogs will have a lot of freedom to be themselves, to process information the way dogs should. And training is all about staying away.
Yeah.
Like, training will never bring you to the point where you can walk with the dog freely.
Certain dogs are subordinate.
Yes, certain dogs. Yeah,
Certain
we're talking
dogs
about dogs
are subordinate enough that they won't.
Yes.
But it's the people that are really struggling. They have the dog that's not going to work for.
Yeah. Like I have women here. I have park in front of my house. A lot of people walking dogs there, and she have little Pekingese. You know Pekingese, and that little cutie just not seeing anybody, just walking without leash, always on the back of the owner. That lady moves, that Pekingese. Even if one of my dogs trying to sniff his butt, he's just moving.
Yeah.
Nobody existing. Yeah, with that Pekingese, you don't need all of that stuff.
Because he's had it already.
Yes.
He's smelled it. He's been there. And once you've tasted it and done it, then you're like, yeah, it's okay. But if he was in that park and his little buddy friend came, then he might be interested and go, oh, I've had this experience. Yeah. We have a good time together. But everybody else, I don't know. Um,
Also seen few homeless dogs, like definitely somebody around my block feeding them. They look okay, but they surfing around freely.
yeah,
So never had problems with that dogs when we meeting
yeah,
in that park.
yeah,
Staying away from us on their own, like zero problems
yeah. This,
because they socialized
yeah, oh, absolutely,
the
absolutely.
way it should be.
Should be, yeah. This somebody had written. I thought this was great. Yeah, and funny how when you see a pack of when you say hey or no in a pack of dogs, only the dog that's up to something hears you, right? Like when you have a group of dogs and somebody's doing something wrong, you go hey. It's usually that dog goes oh yeah, that was me, right? I had a bad thought in my mind, and this goes back to what we were talking about with socialization. Our friend Kimberly was struggling with this when she first caught her recent dog Rain, who was loose in the neighborhood. When she would say "hey" to another dog, he hightailed it out of there. And she was saying like, "What do we do?" And you and I were like, "Nothing." He's self-correcting, right? Like he's saying like, "Whoa, this is a lot," and that's okay. So again, it's not about us interjecting. He's telling us how he feels. So if I'm in a situation and I say "hey" and I come down on another dog because of that, and somebody else goes and does something and feels something, that's okay. I don't walk over to them and try to change the way they feel and say, "Oh, it's okay. I was talking to him. No, no, it wasn't you." It just is. It just is. Because they always bounce back. Something changes. Dogs are resilient.
And again, if that dog taking it really serious, so then we need to change the environment for them.
Yes.
Maybe we need to take away those dogs to whom
Absolutely.
we need to say a lot of hey. Like again, it's about socialization. It's not about giving them treat or ask him to
Yep.
sit or pet him, talk to him.
Yep. All right, man. I think I got so lucky.
Any
My
questions?
my internet has been terrible all
I
day.
just wake up.
I just woke up. No, my internet has been terrible all day, so I feel like it's just starting to get scratchy right now. Um, you create the experience and how they're supposed to feel about those different places, so you can take them around. They learn, and it isn't a big deal, and they aren't emotional about it. Yep. All right, homie. Thank you very much. I have to travel the next couple of weeks, so just let everybody know I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to have good internet again, but I will stay tuned with Artem and myself, and we will definitely post about it. I don't think you've seen it, but I already started a new topic, Artem. I think you'll think it's cool. And yeah, man, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in, and again, thank you for all your questions and engagement. We love it.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, bud. Have a good night.
You
Bye,
too.
everybody.
Bye. Bye, everybody.